I was going on a trip with a lot of friends to Europe for several weeks. Um, and I was on the plane from LA to Switzerland to Zurich. And we were making a stop in New York. And the plane lands in New York late because there's a big storm. And we're going to barely have time to go from our plane to the next plane if we're going to even make it on time. And as we're taxiing up to the gangway and everything, and up to our gate, I check my phone. I have a message from my agent. Says, "Call me as soon as you get a chance." And I go, "What? Well, why? What's going on?" She goes, "I have very interesting news. Call me when you get a chance." I couldn't figure out what it could be, but I'm like, my mind is reeling, right? Of course, we had no time. We literally ran out of our gate. There was three of us. We ran out of our gate and right onto the plane, the last people to get on the plane to Switzerland. And they closed the door, off to Switzerland. So we land in Switzerland, and now it's the middle of the night in New York, so I can't call. Nobody's awake. And so I'm like just kind of trying to stay awake, walking around. And, sometime after lunch, I think it was around 1 or 2 in the afternoon, um, it was finally time where my agent would be awake. So I called her and she says, "So I just had a talk with, or I had a talk with Stuart's agent, or the estate's agent at this point. And they say that Stuart was halfway through writing the next Stone Barrington novel, and they'd like you to finish it. And you have 2 months." And I said, "I'll do it." I'd love to do it. And so I spent the rest of my time in Europe while my friends are off going stuff. I did a little bit, but most of the time I'm listening to audiobooks of the previous Stuart or Stone Barrington books, because I used to I read like the first 10 back in the 90s. And then you fall out of things as a reader. There's so many other things coming at you and you forget to go back. So I had to go back and kind of reacquaint myself. Plus the editor sent me like the books that would be most important to know in association with the book that was being written. So I did that on the trip. Oh, and they also sent me what he wrote. And so I read through that and I kind of sketched out how I thought it could end and what it needed to happen. And I put all that together, and by the time I got back home, I'm like, right on to writing. Near Miss is the book that I finished for him. So that's the only book in his Stone Barrington series that's co-written, is Near Miss. And then after that, then they had me come back for another Teddy, and then now I'm focusing mainly on Stone books. So I have another Teddy book that by the time this comes out is already out, is Blown Away. And then after that, it's Stone Barrington's Deep Water will be out next summer, and then I'm already working on the next one after that right now. So Stone is like the main character. He's like the trunk that all of everything else comes from. He is the number one character in in the Stuart Woods universe. He is a former police officer turned lawyer, who is become very, at first was, kind of a little scrappy lawyer, fixer kind of, but he ran into a lot of good luck, and he's a partner at this very prestigious firm. He works out of his townhouse in Turtle Bay in Manhattan, that he inherited from his great aunt. He has amassed a, several hundred millions of dollars now. He's now one of the owners of a luxury hotel line. He has his own Gulfstream jet that he flies around. He has houses in London and Paris and New York and Los Angeles and Key West, and in a country house in England, south of London. Um, he, he, he- it's he's kind of this kind, rich lawyer guy who still practices law. He dates beautiful women, and he finds himself, getting into these situations where somebody's trying to kill him. Often, the mob is never happy with him, whether it be the Russian mob or the Italian mob or whoever, and then he tumbles into other situations. He has an kind of an on again, off again dating relationship with the woman who is the president of the United States now. One of his best friends is the head of MI6 in the UK, and he's good is well acquainted with the head of the CIA. In fact, he does consulting work for him. So that's Stone Barrington. So he's got the money, he's got all the toys, and all the places, and then all these things happen, and then he tries to figure out a way through them. Him with the help of his best friend Dino Bichetti, who is also they were partners together in the NYPD, but now Dino is now commissioner of the New York Police Department, which means he's the top cop in the city. So these little adventures happen with them. Those are the Stone Barrington books, and so they're fun. They're quippy. The humor is a big part of what's going on. The situations. They're fairly quick reads, and just a lot of fun. I kind of, in some ways, they remind me of like the Nick and Nora movies from the 30s and 40s, where the snappy dialogue and they get involved in these little mysteries that they have to take care of. Sort of like that. He does things do get violent sometimes. There's shootouts, there's car chases, car bombs, all those kind of things. That's Stone Barrington. Stone I can't remember which book it is. Stone meets Teddy Fay after Teddy Fay has left the CIA agency, and he has left it under not hasn't really this is really hard to explain. There's a cloud over Teddy Fay. He's doing some things that he knows is the right thing to do, but is not always perceived to be the right thing to do. But he's left the agency. The agency wants him dead. Eventually, there's a plane that blows up just off the coast of, I think, Massachusetts or Long Island. I can't remember which. And Teddy supposedly dies in this crash. Of course, he doesn't. What he does is he resurrects himself as Billy Barnett, Hollywood. At that point, he's just Billy Barnett, and he has some training, and he knows weapons and stuff like this. He happens to be in Hollywood. He actually is involved in saving Stone's son's life, and so and Stone's son and his friend, who's also Dino's son, are going to Hollywood to make their mark, which they do. And Billy becomes involved with them, and he becomes a Hollywood producer. Teddy/Billy is a master at disguise, so he has he gets involved. He sees things that are happening in and around different storylines that are going on, and he has to use his skills to fix certain situations. He's switching out all the time. He's now in one of his personas, he's an actor, and who actually wins an Academy Award. So he wins an Academy Award as a producer and an actor, but as two different people. They're fun. They're humorous. There's a lot of suspense, and just they're fun rides is how I look at it. Really enjoyable.
All right, so let me throw some titles at you if you
Sure.
touch on them. Near Miss sounds like one that would be fun to start with.
Sure. Well, Near Miss was the one that Stuart had written half of. And
This is New York City, this is set in here.
this one is set almost entirely in New York City. I have to think back. Yeah. So in this one, this is one where it's the mob is kind of one of the organized crime organization is coming up against him, and it's the Russian mob. And um, at the beginning, the Stone meets a woman whose boyfriend is kind of being a real dick to her, and then he goes off, and then Stone kind of protects her, and then that guy is now trying to kill Stone because he thinks that Stone's moving in on his girl, and she was really never his girl in the first place, yada yada. And then something happens to that guy, partly because of what that guy was doing, but also, uh, Stone kind of turned some tables on him, and he is no longer in the picture. But it turns out he's the nephew of this guy in the mob, who the same group of mob that a couple books earlier had tried to kill Stone also, and then he killed the head of the mob back then, or was involved in that. Now they're back at coming at him again in near miss, and uh, where it goes from there. I mean, then it's just identifying who's after who and what, and I think he goes up to his house in Maine. Oh, did I mention he also has a house in Maine? He has a house in Maine, um, and where he goes a lot. So he's up there. There's some back and forth there, and he comes back to New York, and it all kind of comes together. I can't speak today. All comes together in at this banquet kind of situation at a hotel where kind of a shootout takes place, and in the end, of course, I don't want to spoil it, but there is a book after that, so Stone does survive.